Okay, our beloveds, so today is a take 2 from yesterday because our another did not appreciate our message yesterday. So we will go into the fast forward from where it was to where it should be. And today we shall talk about manifesting, manifesting, and manifesting. So for those of you who are in this spiritual ascension process, which really just simply means you're doing your own inner work and healing your own inner traumas and your own inner wounds and your own inner issues, instead of pointing the finger at everyone around you, outside of you, and saying, you are the problem, you are the problem, you are the problem. For those of you who actually are realizing that when somebody else triggers you, it makes you mad, angry, upset, traumatized, whatever it is, even to a certain extent, if they make you feel super happy, but honestly, who's going to complain about that, right? But that is inner work nonetheless, because we wish for you to be in a space of bliss and ease, which means that you are content regardless of your outward circumstances. But we digress once again. When you do your inner work, this means that you recognize that the outside world is merely here to catalyze you into a desired response or reaction that doesn't feel good, that if expressed would not make the other person feel good, and instead repeats the same cycle again and again and again, thereby also potentially traumatizing the person with whom you are having this interaction. But now when you slow down and say, what is my reaction trying to teach me about me and only me, then you can go within, figure out why this particular action makes you feel the way that you do with no judgment, can take you back to your childhood, generally speaking, your formative years, where this first became a pattern where you had to make yourself small in order to feel safe in your world, and how it doesn't feel good, and how the risk that you believed existed as a child is not really present now. It just has an energetic imprint of that. And if you can recognize that, you can, if you feel like being vulnerable, express to the person, when you said such and such, this is what it reminded me of, and it made me feel really unsafe or really insecure or very fearful that you are judging me or that you're going to leave me, or it makes me feel like you don't value me, or it makes me think like you are judging me, or it makes me feel fill in the blank. And I know that this goes back to my childhood when such and such happened, and this was how I responded. And I would really appreciate it if you could just be thoughtful about what you say to me in the future, so as to show that you love me or care for me enough to change how you say things, so that I can feel safe in your presence ultimately. There's so many different ways that you all can engage in non-violent communication. But it all starts with doing the inner work first. Because if you cannot share from a vulnerable perspective why you feel the way that you feel, then you cannot share with them that important connection, which will allow this person to show whether or not they are willing to be in that kind of a communion with you. And then obviously there are some individuals who are not worthy of being invited into this type of conversation with you because they won't be able to hear you. They won't be able to digest these words. Instead, they will use them against you somehow, and that will actually worsen the situation because you are literally giving them the keys on how to wound you. So use some discernment. But most importantly, for those of you who are looking at your inherent response system and why it seems to come up in certain patterns, when you can overcome these shadows within yourself and express to those around you whom you love how you feel and why you feel that way, and how you can express this to the other person in a way that allows them really to feel heard and seen and to feel safe because your response is so gentle and loving and non-judgmental, non-finger pointing. It is amazing when you do this what a sense of rapport you can get with these people. Kati has made a major breakthrough with her therapist in certain areas, and she's been practicing these skills with her daughter because she's beginning to understand how her daughter has as much trauma as her son. It just expresses itself differently, and how Kati can now communicate with her daughter in a way that is much more sensitive to her daughter's needs at these unique times within her life. And Kati is finding that this particular form of communication actually makes herself feel softer and gentler and kinder and more loving. And she believes that her daughter is responding positively because that seems to be the outward response or expression. But what Kati is learning most importantly from all of these therapy sessions and all of this inner work that she's doing is that we all desire to feel safe in our bodies and in our homes and within our friendships. And when you can express to your friends and family and lovers and employees and employers and whatnot what you need to express, but in a way that allows the other person to feel very safe, not judged, and free to continue to express themselves, it creates a whole new pattern of communication and conversation. And the more that you do this with a person, the more it imprints them with this unique way of safely communicating and expressing and teaching and loving and being and seeing and telling and hearing and sharing. It is everything when somebody feels really truly safe. They will share their deepest, darkest secrets because they know that they are safe with you, that they are not judged by you, that you will hold these words in confidence as sacred, and that you too value their relationship with you. That it is about the relationship and not about whether or not you are right or wrong, whether you win or lose, whether your ego is somehow validated. When you can set aside the needs of your ego to be seen and instead simply recognize that the other person's words are merely an expression of their own inner wounds and have absolutely nothing to do with you, when you can reach that point of nirvana, of understanding. In that moment, you can then lovingly respond from a place of compassion where you just feel so much love for this person instead of anger, frustration, hatred, lack of consideration, all those negative emotions that many of you go to when somebody makes you feel lesser than. You then justify your negative reaction because somehow it validates your right to be that way. But when you can really, truly set aside that need to be seen and heard in a particular moment, in a particular manner, you will find that soft way of being vulnerable with the other person and just sharing how you feel and how much you really appreciate that other person and how it makes you feel sad at times when they say certain things, but you know it is not about you. You know it is because they are struggling somehow, and that you wish to offer them a safe space just to be themselves. And when you do that, it is amazing how much you diffuse the situation. And what the other person wants to do is just simply to be in your presence and to be loved and to be seen and to be appreciated. And when you find this rhythm, it changes so very much within your own heart because you do feel seen and heard, but not by your outer words and expressions, but by the inner love and the vulnerability that connects you two together. It is a beautiful feeling, and we just wish more and more of you would offer this to one another, because it changes not only you, but also the other person, and ultimately the whole world, because, as we always say, be the change that you want to see in the world. All you all need to do is to heal yourselves, and when you heal yourselves, you literally heal the world. And much of the pain and the suffering will resolve itself because you yourself now are really coming from an expression of being unconditional love. And that is it. There's not much more to say, to do, or to be. It is just simply that. Being love. So we hope that you can feel a difference within the vibration of our another today, because she is feeling this flow through her body, and it feels really good. And so it is. Namaste.